Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez might honestly be a really boring fight. Let me tell you guys why. Because after I saw that Canelo Alvarez and William Skull performance, I was like, man, Skull's running a lot. He's moving excessively. He's obviously just come for the payday, and obviously to get a check and maybe get his name out there, but ultimately he just wanted to survive against a great. And I understand, it's easy for me to say, I'm not in the ring with Canelo, so maybe I'd run around too. But he definitely had no intention of winning that fight. But let's also remember how Canelo Alvarez looked in there. They made history. They had recorded the lowest output in an undisputed championship fight in the history of boxing. And it wasn't only William Skull. And Canelo Alvarez also is at fault because he could have stepped on the gas a little bit more. I saw Skull moving around a lot, but no intelligent opponent, who's trying to beat Canelo is going to stand right in front of him. At least, if you look at Terence Crawford, I don't think he's going to do that. I think Terence is going to be strategic, move around, and ultimately use the weight advantage that Canelo has in his advantage. When it comes to speed, move around that ring, test that stamina, test that conditioning. Boxing's a sport of conditioning and endurance. So I just feel like Canelo Alvarez, that version of him, isn't going to be able to beat Terence Crawford. I really do favor Crawford now after seeing how Canelo looked physically. He just looked like gassed. He was inactive. The CompuBox and, boxing punches recorded in that fight were clear that, Canelo wasn't really doing anything either. He won the fight because he kept throwing those punches to the body. If he didn't do that, I don't even know how they would have scored it for him. He did the bare minimum to beat William Skull. And I think against Terence Crawford, that leap from Skull to Terence Crawford, like the style is going to be so different and the talent level is going to be so different that I think he might have a hard time in there. And Terence Crawford is coming off of a fight where he dealt with Madrimov, who honestly is, if you look at their opponents, right? If you look at Terence Crawford's last opponent, Israel Madrimov, and then you look at Canelo's last opponent, William Skull, who's the better fighter? I'd take Madrimov all day because he's effective, he's awkward, he's actually talented, he's a world champion. And, not that Skull isn't, but we saw that Skull had no intention of beating Canelo, and Canelo's going to go from that kind of fight into a Terence Crawford fight, and Terence Crawford is going from a Madrimov fight into a Canelo fight. Who's going to be the more prepared fighter? Who's faced the more solid opposition? I would go with Madrimov, and that's why another big reason why I think that Crawford's going to beat Canelo, because a big reason, and the main reason, is the stamina. The low output is what concerns me the most. As somebody, I respect Canelo. I'm a fan of his at the end of the day. I like what he's done in the sport of boxing. I like how he's been a businessman and moved. And, he's been able to put on some great fights. But he's not going to have an easy time with Terence Crawford by any means. I really do think that Crawford's going to beat him now, just judging from his low output, his inability to cut off the ring, the fact that Bud has way more tools than a guy like William Skull. It's just going to be a matter of, will Canelo be able to land that punch? Because I don't think he's going to outbox Crawford. He was incredibly inactive, and his work rate was incredibly low against William Skull. So Canelo's going to have to pick it up against a guy like Crawford, because Crawford's going to be faster, he's going to be busier, and most importantly, Crawford's going to move. Crawford's going to move, not to the point that William Skull was moving, but he's still going to make it difficult for Canelo to land a big shot. He's not just going to sit in the pocket. Trust me, he knows what he's doing, and I feel like he's going to be very strategic in there. So Canelo's stamina has to change. I don't know if it's possible, because ultimately Canelo's aging, and all of you guys are going to be like, oh, but what about, the fact that he's actually younger than Terence Crawford? Like, real boxing fans know the fact that Canelo has way more fights than Bud, and that takes a toll, and that does make you age, and different fighters age differently. I just think Canelo's at that point in his career where his gas tank is giving out, his body is giving out, and you can see that against a mover and a guy like William Skull. Terence Crawford has the blueprint already. He just has to land his shots and move around. Canelo gets tired and frustrated when he has to chase somebody who's not just a steady target, who's not just going to stand in the middle of the ring, because Canelo can beat you in an exchange, but in an actual boxing match, you can make it difficult for him. And I think that's what Crawford plans to do. He's going to try to frustrate Canelo Alvarez, and we'll see if Canelo gets frustrated or he finds a solution to the problem, which is to cut off the ring. But it's going to be very difficult against a guy like Terence Crawford, because Crawford's going to be fast. He's going to be the more energetic fighter. He's going to be the one with the faster hands, and ultimately, I think he has the higher IQ as well. I'm just saying. But let me know down below what you guys think about Crawford and Canelo. I just think there's a chance it could be a boring fight and, you know, Crawford's gonna outbox Canelo to a decision. You know, it might be a hot take, but that's my take. But thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next Nabs Boxing video. Peace.